Hi, welcome to Community Coffee. I'm your host, Trina Myers, and today we have a treat. I am so excited to have our guest, Leslie Ashley Esquire, who is the founder of Talk Pageants. And there are so many exciting things that she has going on, and I can't wait for her to share that with you. Thank you so much for joining me today, Leslie.
Thank you, Trina. It's a pleasure.
Had the opportunity to come on and share my story with you. And so now I'm glad that we're able to get the tables turned and now you're able to share with other audiences what you have going on. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on in your neck of the world?
Okay. Well, recently, I would say in the last month and a half, this was about a year after I got involved in pageants. Initially, I started to get involved in pageants for my children, my daughter, actually my daughters, because I have a 20-year-old and a 3-year-old. And through that process, I ended up getting involved because they had adult divisions and my daughters
Mhm.
wanted me to join them, and I felt like that was only fair, with me doing it for them. Like, I should set the
Right.
example that I'm not afraid to be on stage. So I got involved in pageants, and I was the typical parent that never really understood what pageants were all about. I just thought it was getting dressed up, and looking pretty, and or like a toddler in tiara, or you
Right.
dress your child up. But I didn't realize just how deep it went into these women really advocating and holding a position in our community with their platforms.
Right.
And that really struck me that, wow, there's a lot of good works and a lot of, good community service that's being done. And I really want the public to, I want to reach people like myself who initially thought it was just about dressing up and everything else. And I want them to know all the good works that these women are doing. So I don't know how the idea came. It just like randomly came. And I was like, I'm a creative person. I've done marketing in the past. I'd like to do a magazine, because on top of it, it's so far different from the line of work that I do, but it's needed for an outlet for me. And I felt like if I'm going to exert energy, outside of my profession, I want it to be in something good. And I thought, what a great thing to do than to make a magazine and feature the queens and their platforms, because that's really, to me, what really struck me as the beauty in the pageantry world,
Mm,
aside from the sisterhood.
sure.
And of course it's fun to get dressed up and it's fun, to do those sorts of things. But at the end of the day, what really resonates with me is the good works that people are doing. So,
Mm,
so I started out with that, and then I kind of branched out into doing a live channel because I felt like, in this day and age, we're in 2022. Yes, people will read magazines, but you can also reach a larger audience, on video podcasts.
sure.
So I added that, but then I thought to myself, with my daughter being a national title holder, one of the things that she really missed during her reign was the fact that she had that competitive edge and she wanted to
Mhm.
compete. And it's hard many times for queens to get out there and compete for another pageant system or something like that when they're holding a reign in a pageant system. So
Right, they
I
have
also,
a
I also
contract.
wanted to give the queens an opportunity to compete as well. So I added a competition element to the submission process for the magazine. So that gives them that opportunity as well. So I felt like, and then during this whole thing is during the process, since this was new for me, I really just listened to what the queens wanted. They would send me an email like, "Hey, have you thought about this?" Or, "Oh, are you doing this?" And all of a sudden it hit me and I go, I should do that, right? So I'm kind
Mhm.
of like molded into what they have wanted, along the way.
Right, right. What is the name of the magazine and then the name of the podcast?
It's called Talk Pageants. I was
And is that
driving.
for both?
The podcast is called Talk Pageants Live.
Okay,
The
got it.
magazine is Talk Pageants, and
Okay.
that I was driving down the road, and it just came to me. Like, I can't even explain it. It just came to me, and I was like, Talk Pageants. Oh my god! And I immediately got onto GoDaddy, and I was like, is this domain taken?
Right.
And I got it. So
Does the talk, is it a synonym for something, or is it just, it literally just came to you for an idea?
it just came to me. It's kind of like when I was thinking, I don't know if you remember back, because this is a while back, the whole campaign for milk where it was got milk and everybody had like a mustache, got milk. It
Right.
was kind of like, I guess, subconsciously in my head. And I'm like, Talk Pageants. Like, I don't know why. It just seemed like a got milk, you talk pageant, you know what I mean? Like, it was
Right.
like that.
Wow, that's cool. And it seems like it's just taken off like wildfire. I mean, you have had a really good success with this.
Yeah, it was funny because when I first started, I was just thinking, okay, I'm going to do a magazine, right? I didn't know, and I was initially, I was going, I'll do a magazine each month and I'll take 5 featured queens, in each magazine each month.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it was in like within 2 weeks, I got over, I think it was like over 230 submissions.
Wow.
Initially I was telling people, oh, just email me, email me your pictures and your bio and your platform.
Right.
And I had to go out and get a program that would actually track everything, because it was in such a voluminous amount, of emails that I couldn't even track it anymore. And so I had to go out and get a whole new program for it. And I realized, wow, this is something that people want. And then that, because of the volume, I ended up diverting it into 6 different magazines pertaining to 6 different age groups. So, and that was, I guess, fair too for the competition element, because you don't have a
Right.
5-year-old competing with a 70-year-old. So
Sure. And is this on a monthly basis or is it quarterly? How do you run the magazine?
well, initially it was going to be monthly,
Mm-hmm.
but that was before I got the influx of so many people. So what I have decided to do for 2022 is for September, I'm going to release a magazine for September, October, November, and then the December magazine will encompass all the winners from the
Okay.
competition. Now, starting in 2023, I came up with another idea, and it will be quarterly at that point. But I am branching out too into specialty magazines, because I found myself, as I was creating the magazines, I've always had an affinity for the retro vibe, the
Mm-hmm.
1960s or like
Right.
classic Hollywood, and I really wanted to make some specialty magazines that were premised around those styles. And I just I always took kind of like a vote or a poll, not a vote, but I would throw an idea out there to see the response from the
Right,
community.
right.
And they loved the whole idea of doing, like a couture magazine and
Oh, I'm all about that too. I saw your post on it and I was like, "Oh, how fun."
well, you know what else too is, so many times, I know we want to get pictures taken, right? And you go and you see these extravagant, cool, eclectic pictures in like a Vogue magazine. But the question is, I would love to take a couture picture, but what am I going to do with the couture picture?
Right.
So I felt like this is a great outlet, because you're guaranteed to get it published in a magazine. So
Right.
if you have these ideas of wanting to go, say, take like a classic 1920s, Betty Boop style, picture, that it's not just going to be pictures for you, but it's actually going to be published in a magazine, and you might, you might end up winning the cover with your picture.
Right, right. I know. I actually just did a photo shoot in Orlando and I did an edgy couture style.
You
And
can do it then, Trina. You need
I
to.
I didn't care that it was couture. I did it because, just like you said, we do have these desires to do something different. And
Absolutely.
a couple of years ago, a pageant system that I competed, our opening number was a fashion a show. And I was like, man, it would be really fun if we could have done the whole makeup, even,
Yeah,
like do the whole experience, the runway show. And so when I did this photo shoot a couple weeks ago, I had all that in mind. I'm like, I'm not going to do the pretty, natural makeup. I want it to be a little bit more extreme. So I think
absolutely.
you're onto something there.
Well, I just, that's the type of person I am too. I'm not your tradition. I mean, I'm not your traditional lawyer. I've never been like a traditional mold. Like I've always gone and pushed the edges, right?
Right.
So I noticed that within myself, just in designing the magazine, that it's not a traditional looking magazine. I'm
Mhm.
really into colors. I'm really into just pushing the envelope, giving a stylization. And, you know, I thought to myself too, like, what would I want?
Right.
Right. And so, but Trina, you need to, I was like, Trina, sorry,
That's okay.
you need to submit your pictures for the Couture magazine.
Well, we'll have to talk offline on that because the photographer, he has a magazine in Atlanta. So
Yeah.
he gets first pick of it. It's going to be in his magazine coming up soon. So
Awesome.
after it's released in his magazine, then, I have free reign to be able to put it and share it wherever. And last year, one of his photos ended up on the New York billboard.
Oh, wow. That's
So
awesome.
I've had a really good time and a fun time with him. And I'm trying to get him to come up to Iowa and do some photo shoots along the Mississippi River and, the small town kind of feel, something a little different as well.
That's awesome.
We'll have to talk offline. I have some ideas too that maybe we can collaborate on a project.
Yes, yes, so definitely. And we're doing as far as like the specialty magazines go, we're doing retro, which is kind of like your mod 1960s. Like it could be anything that's in the past.
Right.
We're doing couture and then we're doing fairy tale because I love fairy
Oh,
tale. Like
oh,
I
I
love
do
fairy.
too.
Yeah,
Oh,
so it's funny because I already have Queen telling me that they're laying in bed at night, like brainstorming, what their photo shoot might encompass. So I think that that's awesome.
yeah. Oh my gosh, how fun.
Yeah,
Now, since you're putting this all together, do you get involved in having the photos taken yourself? Like for you?
I have not. I have thought I would love to, right? I just have not done it because I have been so busy. It's hard because it does pull at me like I want to get involved. I would love to do this. I would love to do this myself, right?
Hmm.
But my passion, believe it or not, is in the creation and like featuring these queens. There's like a high that I get when I can make someone feel really special, right? Or I can make somebody feel like $1 million or whatever it is that that pulls at me more than it
Sure.
is even me wanting to do it. Although I would love to do it, I still dabble in here and there, to some pageants, here or there. Like I have a national coming up in July that I'm doing with my daughters.
Oh,
But
fun.
yeah, but I when I took on this role to do this, part of that role is that you are actually a vehicle to highlight other queens, and I actually love it. Like I love it
Yeah.
and I love being creative with it and I love the feedback that I get and it makes me feel happy. if that makes sense. Like it's, I mean, of course, like I said, of course, I would love to do it. I would love, those photo shoots. And I mean, I could always stick myself in, for a page or whatever. I just haven't gotten around to doing it. But, just because I've been like, I don't know, like mesmerized with all these awesome pictures that I've gotten from all these queens from around the world, because I've had people from Australia, from the UK. I mean, it's not just limited to the United States.
Right. Wow, that is awesome. You've mentioned your daughter. I've seen you two in video together, and you look like you could be sisters.
Did you see the dance video?
Yes, it was so much fun.
Yes. Okay, so if you saw the dance video, you saw that
Yes.
that was my garage, by the way, where we're dancing.
Okay.
And it kind of shows you my personality, because if you look in that video, you're gonna see that it's like the walls are black and there's neon colors, and like I have I took like sticker tape and it says, "Don't forget to be like a child," right? So I just, but that's, we actually were just messing around in the garage, because we have these nationals coming up, but I'm actually not entering the talent portion. I'm doing it to compliment her in her talent portion. But we just thought it would be so unique to do a duet with mother and daughter. So
yeah, I was impressed with what I saw. What are her thoughts about you competing?
Well, at first she laughed at me. I'm not gonna lie, she did. What happened was, I mistakenly, when I had an email, I had a picture of myself, because in my professional, world, I had a little picture of myself attached to the signature, and I was looking for pageants to enroll my daughter in, and then I guess one of the directors messaged back and she said, "Hey, have you thought about doing a pageant? We've got an older age range category that you could compete in." And I thought to myself, well, how fun would this be if my daughter's doing it? I should do it too, right? So I just said, yeah, let me do it. What the heck? And my daughter was like, wait, what, Mom? You're doing a pageant? This is my oldest daughter. Like, my youngest daughter was super excited. She wanted Mommy to do pageant.
Right.
But my oldest daughter was like, what the heck? And it's so funny, because now, since I'm, involved in Talk Pageants, I'm realizing, oh my gosh, like, I'm part of one of the largest demand age groups that competes in pageants. I had no idea. The largest amount of submissions that I have received from queens from around the world is my elite division, which is ages 35 to 54. So that is the most amount of submissions. So I realized, okay, I'm not alone in this. And then it gave me even more hope in the fact that you have this senior America pageant with these women 55 and up. And I was like,
they
wow,
look great.
Yeah, they look amazing. And I'm like, and I'm going, this is great. So I can basically participate in pageants, the rest of my life.
Yep, you really could.
Yeah.
So a lot of the pageant systems, have a platform to them. And you are providing an opportunity for women to talk about their platforms. So do you have a specific platform outside of Talk Pageants?
I do have a platform, and it really came with the practice of law, although it has evolved. You have to figure, when I see situations, I see it from the court system. I see what works behind the scenes, what works with legislation, how you argue statutes, what works with judges. So I see things from a completely different take than somebody else might see things.
Sure.
And during my time when I initially came into my advocacy work, because my advocacy work really started full throttle when I became a lawyer. I originally started in parental rights and advocating for parental rights, evolved a little bit into father's rights. But then at the end of the day, I would say, like, after, 5 years of advocating in that arena, I kind of came out on the side of children's rights. because it's complex, and I don't want to get so technical and boring.
Yeah, no, it's all
but
good.
but really where I have not deviated, because my platforms do change based on my experiences in the courtroom. Where I have not deviated and I have not changed my position is in disability, mental health, and elder rights. I was actually the only attorney in the state of Florida that successfully was able to restore the rights and free over nine, it was 9 adults from the range of elderly to disabled, but restore their rights and free them of guardianships. And for those that don't know what guardianships are, the easiest thing that you can think of is the Britney Spears story.
Right.
So I was able to get 9 people out of the situation that Britney Spears was in. And I got a lot of recognition for that. I was interviewed on ABC News and NBC News because of my success in that arena. But, my take a year ago, my position on that has even changed, because when I did restore the 9 people's rights, half of those people without a guardianship did not successfully manage their life once freed from a guardianship. I wouldn't have known that a year ago, right? I would have seen that later, so there is a need for guardianships, but there are people that are placed into guardianships wrongfully, and the statute does read in such a manner that the attorneys intentionally keep people in guardianships because they benefit monetarily from these people's estates. So it's a very complex issue. You know what I'm saying? Like, those are different situations that I do advocate for. And I guess at the end of the day, it would be what's called least restrictive measures. And that means if you're disabled, whether that be a physical disability or a mental disability, and that also involves mental health, right? Mental health issues, or somebody just happens to age and get the onset of dementia. I don't believe in restricting them. I believe in giving them as much freedom as possible.
Sure. Oh, that would be a tough, I don't know if I could do that. That is very hard, emotionally and mentally I guess the thought that you're helping somebody, that is what motivates to do that. But that's a lot of load on you.
It's a lot, and it's and that's why, like, my position changed a lot with parental rights, because I was involved in DCF cases. And that would be, where the department comes in. It's the state that comes in because they suspect child abuse or whatnot. And my clients, because I was known as the parents' rights attorney. I was known across the United States for that. Because I had a YouTube video that went viral, and the next thing you know, everybody in God's creation was calling me to help get their kids back. But unfortunately, I learned that about 70% of those people were really at fault. And that was something that was really, it took me back, because I was all parents' rights, state intervention, parents deserve to have their kids. But then I witnessed so many things firsthand that
it's very disheartening.
Yeah. So my position has changed on that.
Sure. Do you have any type of community outreach that you're currently working on that, maybe if somebody is watching this and maybe would like to help support you? Obviously you have your podcast that people can reach out to you, and what I'll do is, when this is done and live for everyone, to put in the comments how people can reach out to you, whether it's your Talk Pageants Facebook page, a website, or However, you want them to contact you, please feel free to put whatever you would like in the comments. But is there anything that you have going on that you would like support from the community?
I would say that something very close to me, and I would love to do a big spread on this in my magazine. There's certain platforms that really you have to get involved from a statutory reform stance. And there's other platforms that just simply speaking about it is
Hmm.
really making a difference.
Right.
Um, the stigma with mental health resonates very strongly with me and very personally with me because I actually have a mental health issue that I've had to, be under. I've had to, be treated for since I was 19 years old. I've managed to stabilize myself and to live a successful life, but it's hard because I can't tell you how many daily experiences that I have where people just rattle off a diagnosis simply because they think somebody else is irrational or crazy. And they'll say,
Mm-hmm.
that person's bipolar, that person's
Mm-hmm.
this. And the sad thing is that, I am a bipolar and it has almost taken my life. And I've had to work very hard to keep stability. And I am a very successful person in my professional life, in my
Mm-hmm.
personal life, as a parent. And it hurts really bad to hear people rattle those things off
Mm-hmm.
just in conversations because they disagree with somebody else's opinion, or they think this person got a little rattled up too fast or got a little too angry or whatever. So I think bringing awareness to mental health issues, whether it be depression, whether it be such as what I have, bipolar disorder, whether it be somebody who has schizophrenia or any sort of serious mental health, disorder, I think people who want to be transparent about it, I would love to feature because I think it's going to take people coming out who've lived a successful life, who look like all of us, right? You
Yeah.
could be standing next to somebody with one of these disorders and not even know it. I
Right.
think that that's going to really help the stigma with mental health. So, if anybody would like to come out, I am openly bipolar in my legal profession, and I do that intentionally so that the courts don't discriminate against people that have bipolar because they see a practicing successful attorney who's treating and who's able to maintain stability.
Right.
um, so I do that as part of, I guess, my platform, in that area. um,
Sure.
how you can get in touch with me is very easy. You can email me at info at talkpageants, plural pageants.com. You can let me know your diagnosis. You let me know what it's been like living with it, how you've conquered it, how you've treated. And I would love to do a big spread on that in my magazine.
That's great. I think that opening that door of conversation is much needed. It's one of the reasons why Joanna and I started pageant rehab is, because people, unfortunately, we get so caught up in the pageantry, in the competition that we forget about our mental health aspect of it. And that's why we started that, to provide tools as a resource for individuals. And I think it's great that you're opening up that door of conversation.
No,
Thank you.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's just, it's one of those things that I have seen, it when somebody is in a crisis that has a mental health issue, such as say they go into psychosis, because I've been there in
Hmm.
2011. It's something beyond your control, and it's the scariest part of your life that you will ever endure. It's like you're living in a hell on earth, and it's not
Hmm.
your fault. And you know it's serious, and people take their lives in suicide because they get to such a point where they're neurotransmitters because of the chemical imbalance. That's not their fault.
Right.
It's no different than, say, diabetes makes their perception of life seem 10 times worse than the reality is, but that's real to them. And
Right.
it just really hurts me to hear how many times I hear in the community just people randomly that are not psychiatrists, that are not psychologists, just randomly go, oh, this person, that they're bipolar. I mean, be careful when you make those sorts of statements, because you don't know if someone next to you actually does have the disorder. And it's a very real disorder that, I have to manage on a daily basis. I have to take over 5 medications on a daily basis. And it's not something I chose to do. It's not something I wish upon anybody else, but I have to manage it.
Right. And that's good that you are, because there's sometimes people who don't want to take the medications, or they feel like, oh, they're feeling okay, so they don't need to take the medications.
Yeah.
And then they end up finding themselves in some trouble.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on here and sharing a little bit about you and what you're doing. Is there any last thing that you would like to share with the viewers that we haven't talked about yet?
I think you got it, Trina. I think you
Right.
got it. It's been such a nice time talking with you. And thank
Oh,
you
it's
so
my
much, for
pleasure.
having me on your show. I'm
Yeah.
very
We'll
excited to
definitely
be
have
here.
to have you back on and give us some updates on the magazine and what you have going on. So I look forward to having you come back on in a few months, and we'll see where you are at that time.
Thank you, Trina.
All right, my pleasure. And thank you all for joining in for Community Coffee. We hope that you have a great rest of your day and great rest of your great upcoming week.
Thank you.